So we are here again to talk about grad application and funding process. And thank you, Lexi, for recording. Really excited. And I hope you guys all saw our awesome screenshot from last week. I posted on LinkedIn. So check it out. You guys are great. And also, you guys, I shout out to awesome team slides. If you didn't get a chance to finish it, feel free to jump on, but they look great. So, and some awesome team names too. I got some great chuckles and thought they were super creative. So great work there, creating your circle team names. Today, again, I'm just going to reiterate the structure. You guys had some pre-watch coming into today. We're going to have a short discussion with Janet, and then we'll break off into mentoring circles. And so again, a friendly reminder, you have an action pack that's attached to each email that we send, and also the calendar invites that I sent to you guys over the summer. So again, this has like anything kind of highlighted. There's videos there. There's also some helpful kind of templates we have. So definitely check that out for what we're going to be doing for each week and kind of what your actions are as mentees, and then mentors, what your actions are as well. So that's a great resource. And again, friendly reminder at the very bottom of that action pack PDF, there's questions. So again, if you don't really know where to start to ask questions around a topic, these are some great things to start with in your circles. So definitely make sure you check that out. I wanted to give a quick update on the GradTrack trophy. So again, our GradTrack trophy will be awarded at the end of the GradTrack program. You earn points for attending meetings, submitting assignments, and meeting one-on-one with your mentor. You can have your mentor, or you can kind of report your one-on-one meetings and just let us know that you met. That's all we're really asking, and then you'll get points for that. So there's a Qualtrics there. You can ask Lexi if you have any questions on that. The winning team gets bragging rights, and they get something a little extra special in terms of swag by the end of the semester. And how you can get points and how they get calculated is that on your GradTrack team and in your circle are going to earn points. We recognize circles have different numbers of people, so you'll get points normalized. The number of points normalized per circle. Guys, it's Monday night, by the average number of points per person in your circle. So, and then if you're wondering like what kind of things you get points for, we have a Google Doc spreadsheet that's linked at the very top of the Circle platform, or it should be very shortly linked at the top of the Circle platform, that you can kind of see what you can get points for and what needs to get submitted. All else fails, ask Lexi. He is your go-to person. So drum roll, who's currently winning? We actually have Circle 1 is in first right now, but by a very small margin. So circle 5, 6, 8, and 11, you guys are on their heels. It's really anyone's game. So I really encourage you to keep submitting assignments and keep showing up for our GradTrack sessions so you can earn these points. So today, like I said, we're going to bump this on over to Janet. And then what I'm going to do is, before we break you off into rooms, I'm going to actually bring us all back together, or before I bump you off into rooms, we're going to talk a little bit about assignments for next week. Then I'm going to move you into your circles so you can discuss, and then you will leave directly from your breakout room from your circle. So mentors, you can dismiss kind of students at 8:30 p.m. From your circles directly. We are not going to bring you back into the main Zoom room, so you can leave directly from your circles. And we're going to be really excited to see you in another 2 weeks. So we're taking 1 week off for Labor Day, and then we'll be back at it shortly after. So with that, I'm going to turn it on over to Janet, and I'm going to stop screen sharing. And so I'm going to turn it over to our Senior Director of Grad Programs, Dr. Janet Beagle, and she's going to share a little bit more about the application and funding.
So. All right, great. Thank you, Jackie. And hello, everybody. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and get started with presentation. There we go. Okay, so you should be seeing the presentation of my slides. All right, excellent. Let me also pop up the chat here so I can kind of keep an eye on that. As I'm going through the presentation, if you guys have a burning question related to the graduate school application, the application for summer undergraduate research or graduate funding, feel free to put that in the chat. I'm probably not going to have a lot of time at the end here, but I will try to squeeze in as many of those as I can at the end. And if nothing else, we will then have those questions for your mentors to answer in the circle groups that we're going to be talking through here just in a little bit. So what I want to do is spend the next little bit talking about tips for a strong application, whether you are in the process of applying to grad school now, or whether you are going to be in the process of applying for a summer research program, or if you are applying for external fellowships or different funding. All of these things require a strong application. So I'm going to try to give you some tips to get you jumped in and working on that stuff. So the first place I want to start is just kind of understanding the graduate school application process. So even if you're a couple of years out from this, now is the time to start to understand this so that you can start preparing even better for that application when it comes. And anytime that you apply, one of the most important things is to kind of understand like who you're talking to or what that big picture structure is. And so that's what this slide is talking about here. So most universities are structured this way. So I'm using Purdue as an example, but you'll find this at other institutions as well, where there's really kind of 3 levels of people that you'll be talking to throughout the graduate school application process. The first one is, in our case, the Purdue University Graduate School. And this is that central graduate school office. They manage the online application system. They are the ones who officially grant admission into graduate school. And they are really that central point of contact for the entire university here at Purdue. You kind of come down one level from that and you have the college graduate office. And so that is your lovely leaders here, right? You've got Jackie, you've got Lexi, you've got myself. We have some other folks on our graduate engineering team here at Purdue that work with the college office. We're located in the dean's office at the college level. And we really act as a liaison between everything that's happening at that central university level and the things that are happening in each of the individual departments or schools or graduate programs. And so then you go down one more level, and that's where you have the individual school graduate offices. So here at Purdue, mentioned briefly last week, we're structured that we have 14 schools of engineering within our College of Engineering. Other universities may call them departments or programs, but it's that academic unit that you would actually be applying to, or that major, whatever that program is. And it's at that level that the admission requirements are being set. It's faculty in each of those schools that actually review your application. And that's important to keep in mind, because when we come to writing essays and some of the other things that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, you've got to always think about that audience, and it is faculty. It is faculty in the department that you're applying to who are actually reviewing your application. And then after they review the application, they send a recommendation for admission back up to that central graduate school, and then that central graduate school does a final credential review. They check to make sure that they have your transcripts, that you met kind of the minimum university requirements, that there's no fraudulent documents. You know, they kind of do that legal check, if you will, and then they give you that final offer of admission, that official offer of admission. And so throughout this process, you will receive emails from all 3 of these levels. You'll receive emails from your school, you'll receive emails from us at the college, you'll receive emails from that central graduate school. And so that's just something to be aware of and keep in mind as you're getting these different emails. Where are they coming from? Who's sending them? Why are they sending them? Just kind of keep that straight as you kind of think through the process here. When you look at the parts of the graduate school application, there is an online application form. There's a fee here at Purdue. It's $60 currently to apply. And then there's 2 essays. This is a relatively new change for Purdue. In the past, we had a slightly different essay, but starting this year, the 2 essays that are required for all applicants are a statement of purpose and a personal history. And we're going to talk much more in depth about these 2 essays at the next session in a couple of weeks. We've got some folks coming in. They're going to talk through about these. But just real briefly, when you think about a statement of purpose, this is for anybody, especially if you're applying to a research degree. This is where you talk about what your academic interests are, what your research interest is, why you want to pursue that kind of academic area or that research program. This is where you can mention specific faculty that you might be interested in working with. What experience are you bringing to the table in terms of research experience, your academic background? So kind of that more like technical essay, if you will. And then the personal history essay is going to be a little bit more of a personal story. It's a little bit more about you. This is where you can really emphasize things like your leadership traits, the experiences you've had overcoming challenges, overcoming obstacles, being a leader in different student organizations, some of your interests, a little bit more of that personal narrative type of essay. And so we'll talk more about those, but just kind of keep that in mind. There are these 2 essay requirements. We're going to have you drafting these throughout this GradTrack program. Your mentor is going to help review and fine tune and hone these. So start thinking about these, start working on these now. These assignments are going to be coming up. And then letters of recommendation. I'm going to talk more about this if I have time at the end of this presentation. Typically 3 are required. And then other things that the application often needs, standardized test scores. This is something to check on because some schools, some majors are now removing these from the requirements while some still require them. And this can vary by individual program or individual major. And so this is another point, kind of going back to that first slide, when you think about the admission requirements are all being set by those individual programs, you can have, in our case, 14 different sets of requirements, right? And so we do have some schools who require you to take the GRE, and we have some schools who do not. And so you're going to find that at other universities as well. Some universities are going to have them, certain majors within those universities may or may not. So when you are looking for the application requirements, when you go to apply, make sure you're looking up your specific program that you want to apply for. Don't rely on your friend who may be applying to mechanical engineering if you're going to apply to biomedical engineering, because they can have very different criteria, different deadlines, different everything. So just one thing to keep an eye on there. And then as part of the application, you'll have to provide transcripts, list out previous work experience, research experience, really important for those research-based degrees. And hopefully you all had a chance to watch some of the pre-video where we kind of talked about the different types of degrees and different activities you're involved in, resume, CV. And so you're going to be putting together an entire application packet. It does take some time, right? So now is about the time, those of you who are seniors, now is the time to start putting these things together in time for some of those application deadlines that are going to be coming up. As we look at that timeline, right? September, October, right? We're coming into September. That's when you want to be drafting the essays, take any of those standardized tests that are needed, ask for letters of recommendation. November, December is when a lot of those application deadlines are. So you'll need to make sure that all pieces of the application are received by the deadline, right? So you need to give yourself plenty of time to be talking to professors to get those letters of recommendation in. Take that standardized test now so that there's time for those test scores to actually get delivered to the universities that you're applying to. All of this is based on what I call a fall entry term, kind of an August start. That is the most common term to start grad school, but it's not always the only one. There are some programs that will do a spring admission and admit people in for a January term. There are also some that will admit students in for a summer, but typically summer term is used for those students who apply for fall and are admitted to fall and then actually start a little bit early. So they may do a summer start and kind of get a jump start on their academics. Once you've applied, then a lot of the decisions are going to be happening in the January to March timeframe, and they'll usually ask you to make your decision of where you're going to go by April 15th. So that gives you an idea of kind of the timeline and what you're looking at here. All right, so shifting gears just a little bit. Hopefully you all watched the funding video, but just to kind of recap a couple of the highlights that are in there. Graduate assistantships, the primary way that most graduate students are going to be funded, and these can be research, teaching, or general administrative professional assistantships. And this is where you work part-time, you get free tuition, a paycheck, other benefits along with that as well. In addition to assistantships, there's also fellowships, and these can be either internal, which is from the university itself, or external from other agencies. Eligibility benefits, everything, varies very widely, very similar to undergraduate scholarships. These are merit-based. These are awarded to kind of the top applicants that are applying to the university. You'll be considered automatically for some funding when you apply to graduate school, but there are other opportunities you should be looking out for and paying attention to be able to apply. What I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is like, who gets this funding, right? So there's these different types of funding source. Who is it that gets the money? And if you kind of look at this inverted pyramid here, the students who will receive the most are going to be your PhD students. They have the most opportunities for funding. And if you think about this, go back to kind of hopefully what you saw in that video, the majority of students are funded on assistantships, and that funding comes from research grants that professors get. And so a professor will write a proposal to some funding agency, say, I'm going to help you with this problem that you have. That funding agency gives that faculty member money and says, okay, go solve this problem for me. Go investigate this, go do research in this area. That faculty member then takes that money and turns around and hires all of you to come in and work in their lab and help them on that grant proposal. And so if you think about it from the faculty member's perspective, who is it that they are most likely going to fund? Their first choice is going to be PhD students because they're the ones that have the most experience. They're also going to come in and they're there for the longest amount of time. And so a faculty member can bring them in, train them for a couple of years, and then still be working with that student for a few years. And so there's more funding that gets funneled into those PhD students. So they have opportunities for more fellowships and then also all of the different types of assistantships. After that, the money will flow down to your thesis master's students. So again, these are those research-based master's students. And same reason, right? You know, those faculty members that are looking to hire individuals, they're going to be looking then for a student who's already doing research, working towards a degree that's in that research field to hire them into their lab. And so they have the same types of funding offers. There just aren't quite as many for master's students as there are for PhD. After that, the funding starts to really drop off as you come down to non-thesis masters. Research assistantships are no longer an option. So those are kind of off the table typically. And so you're left with kind of teaching assistantships, other general graduate assistantships. This is where you start seeing more people that may be employer funded or self-funded. And then as you move down into the kind of the last category here, professional masters, these are typically accelerated degrees, and these do not come with any funding. So you are expected to either pay yourself or to be working for an employer who is paying for you to come and get that professional master's degree. And so this is just important to keep in mind as you are applying to graduate school, where that money is and kind of why. The other thing to keep in mind is you may be kind of on the fence between a master's and a PhD. If you are applying as a master's student, but are interested in going on for a PhD, or you're applying to a program that kind of requires you to get a master's degree before you go for a PhD, what we call kind of a PhD track student, you may be coming in as a master's student, but your ultimate goal is a PhD, then you would still be kind of in that PhD student pool, right? You know, you would still be considered one of those students that the faculty is most likely going to try to fund because you're intending to be there for that longer time period. So just a few tips for finding funding, kind of working through this process. First and foremost, understand your program's funding process, find out what their structure is. There are some programs that guarantee funding to every student they admit, right? They will not admit you unless they also guarantee funding, right? And so some programs, that's their structure. Others, they separate and I would say most separate the funding and the academic admission, right? So they may admit you into the program, and then whether or not you get funded is kind of a second review. And so understand what that process is. If there is a separate application to be considered for a teaching assistantship, make sure you're finding that out. Look at the website, talk to the graduate administrators in those programs, just understand what that structure is for those programs. And then don't be afraid to reach out to faculty before, during, and after applying. Right? This is never a bad thing as long as you're polite and as long as you keep your emails very short, very professional, very research focused. Think about some of these as more of a job interview than as applying to grad school, right? And think about it, the faculty members are actually as eager, if not more eager, to find good students as you are trying to find a good faculty member to work for. And so they really are looking to hear from students who are professional, that have an interest in their research and that have some background. And you can really set yourself apart and increase your chances of being offered funding by reaching out to these faculty members ahead of time. The way to do that, do your homework first, make sure you're looking on their website, read a couple of their journal articles, send them a short email letting them know that you're going to be applying, that you are interested in their research, that you read this recent article, you're wondering if they will be looking to hire grad assistants this next year or what direction their research is going. Attach your resume to that email. And then don't be kind of too put off if you don't hear back from these faculty members. Often they're extremely busy. They receive a lot of these emails, but it's always amazing to me how well faculty sometimes still remember that a student did reach out to them. And so they may not have a chance to reply, but then later on, when they see your application come across their desk, they're going to remember that, oh, this student reached out to me. I'm going to take a closer look at this application. And so don't be afraid to kind of send that initial email. And then when you actually do apply, if you haven't heard back from that faculty member, email them again and say, I just want to let you know I just submitted my application. Really looking forward to talking with you more about how I might be a fit for your lab. Right. And then for those of you who still have a year or two before you apply, those relationships that you build during your summer research experience can lead to future funding offers. It could be the professor that you actually go to work for that summer, or it could be just some other professor. But because you start to build that network, you have that connection, you have that experience with that one professor, then other professors will take notice and start making you offers as you're able to go and talk to them. Those of you that are going to have a summer experience this next summer, take advantage of that. Whether you come to Purdue, whether you're at another university, make sure you're taking that opportunity to go schedule meetings with professors who are there and go and talk to them about your interests, about what they're doing. Make those personal connections. That goes a long way, and it's going to improve your chances for getting funding so much more down the road. When you apply, there is a place where you can list faculty that you're interested in working for. So make sure you do that. And then in your statement of purpose, right, one of those essays, you can mention specific faculty there. You can mention a couple of them or mention, Professor X, and similar colleagues. You don't want to necessarily pigeonhole. You don't want to say, I only want to work for this professor and nobody else, right? But it's good to mention specific faculty members and let them know where your interests lie. And then definitely apply for external fellowships and have a strong application. That's going to help you go a long ways. I'm not going to read through these slides, but these slides will get shared out. A couple links and information about some of the different fellowships that you should be applying for and considering. So there's a couple Purdue fellowships and then some external fellowships. The GEM is a really good one. If you're not familiar with that, look that up, learn more about it. NSF Fellowship, one of the most prestigious national awards. And we have had several GradTrack graduates who have won the NSF Fellowship, right? And so this is definitely within your reach. And so this is something else that you can work with your mentors on, work on through this program, putting together a competitive application for this. And there's a link there that will take you out and show you some other fellowships as well. So I'll get you started on some of your funding search. All right, last few minutes here. Summer research programs. So those of you that are in the process of applying to this, there are a couple different types of programs. So just kind of be aware of this. There are kind of structured programs where there is a cohort of students that comes in. They may all be working in different labs, but you'll have kind of shared workshops, symposiums, et cetera, kind of have that whole summer experience together. There's also individual faculty hires. There are just individual faculty members who will hire undergraduate students into their lab, both academic year as well as over the summer. And so you can seek those out at your home institution, especially, but also other institutions. You can reach out to them and just inquire whether they are interested in hiring an undergraduate student. And then there's also what we call REUs, Research Experience for Undergrads. These are NSF funded. And there's a whole list of them and a way to be able to find them. Some of these are kind of embedded within structured programs, and some of them are just individual faculty hires. So there's different structures that exist out there for summer research programs. And so just kind of be aware of that. Websites there, definitely check those out as you have time. And so again, as you think about the application process here, there's again kind of a couple different layers. So those that have kind of that cohort base, they'll have kind of a program office. So here at Purdue, one of our main programs is SURF, or the Pathways program that Jackie and Lexi both work with. And that central office manages the application. They're kind of the main contacts for the program. But then there's the faculty supervisors, and they are the ones who do the actual hiring, right? It's the individual faculty members, same as it is on the graduate school application. It's those individual faculty members that are the ones that are ultimately making the selection. So they review the applications, they identify a student, they say, oh yeah, I want to bring that student into my lab for the summer. They're the ones that supervise the research, often with either a postdoc or a graduate student is your kind of direct mentor, and then the faculty oversees that. But they are the individuals that actually make those hiring decisions. Another thing to watch out for is there may be multiple applications for different programs at the same university. So here at Purdue, right, I mentioned kind of the SURF and the Pathways program. We also have an SROP program. There are REU programs. There are a variety of summer research programs here at Purdue, and they may have different applications. So be looking for that. Don't just find one program and stop. Keep looking. And when in doubt, always reach out to us. We are your contacts now, Jackie, Lexi, and I, right? We are in your corner. You can reach out to us. We'll point you in the right direction, or do our best at least to point you in the right direction. Typical summer research application time frame. Deadlines can vary widely, but often they're in kind of a November to January time frame. Some of them will have kind of a list of projects you choose from. Some of them will have you just kind of specify a general area of interest. Often they'll ask for transcripts, resume or CV, essays that ask about your research interests and your background. And again, similar to what I said on the graduate school application, you can email faculty you would like to work with. Don't be afraid to submit an application, but then don't just wait for the process to work. It's okay to then email faculty and say, hey, I just applied for this program. Are you taking students as part of this program this summer? Or I noticed this on your website. I'd love to learn more about that. Don't be afraid to reach out. All right, last thing. How am I doing? Okay, I got like 1 minute. All right, letters of recommendation. So these are letters, they typically need to come from a professor. So usually they want 3, and they want them to come from a professor. And the reason for that goes back to that same point. It is faculty members who are reviewing these applications. They like to hear from their colleagues. They like to hear from other faculty members. And they also like to hear these recommendations from somebody who has supervised grad students, right? So other professors who have supervised grad students know what it really takes and can write a strong letter. And so it's really important that you start building those relationships now. Get to know your professors the best that you can. When it's time to ask for that letter of recommendation, give them like a month. And it's always a good idea to give them an earlier deadline than what the actual deadline is, so you have a little cushion. So if your application deadline is December 1st, tell them that it's November 15th. And that means you need to be asking for it no later than October 15th, right? So you can see how that deadline comes up really fast, right? September, October, this is when you need to start getting this stuff ready. Make their job easy, give them a bulleted list of things that they could include in their letter for you. And then follow up, make sure that they are getting this done by the deadline. All right, last slide here. Action items for your goals. And again, we will send these slides out, so you will have this as a reference. All of you hopefully set some goals last week for this upcoming semester, or at least the length of this program. So here are some ways to get started on some of those goals that you set, whether you're getting ready to apply to grad school, some external fellowships, summer research. Start checking through this list. These are some things that are very actionable and things you should be working on right now. All right, I kept us kind of on time, did not leave much time for questions, but hopefully you've got them churning in your head. You can ask your mentors and we'll move from that. All right, Jackie, I'll turn it back.
Yeah, and we had a couple of good questions in the chat, and I think we fielded those in the chat. So definitely take a peek at that. But then I think there's a couple, if you want to stop screen sharing, Janet.
Yeah, I'm working on it. There we go.
There are a couple good questions as well that came in. One question was application fee waivers. So you mentioned that grad school is expensive to apply to. So how can someone get that? How can someone get a free application to grad school?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are application fee waivers that different universities will offer. So here at Purdue, we have a list, and I don't know if Jackie's put the link in the chat already, but I'm sure we can. There is a link out to grad school website that will actually list the different ways that you can get a fee waiver. Here at Purdue, you can get one by coming to our Purdue Engineering Virtual Graduate Showcase that is coming up October 1st and 2nd. And so that is an event that we strongly encourage all of you to attend. And by attending that, you will get an application fee waiver. So you can apply to Purdue for free. And also, if you come to summer research at Purdue, if you participate in the SURF program, doing that, you will get an application fee waiver for Purdue. And so there's 2 examples right there of how you can get a fee waiver, and then you can apply to Purdue for free. Other universities will often have these as well. So look around on their website, Google application fee waiver at University X, and look for that web page, because every university will have a web page that will list those.
Japa has a question about how we're gonna like lightning these questions. How is SURF different from an REU?
Yeah, SURF is a structured program, and so it's going to have more professional development workshops, more of a cohort-based program. Some REUs are also cohort-based, but a lot of them are also just individual faculty or smaller. And one of the underlying differences is just the source of funding. REUs are NSF funded. SURF is funded both from the university as well as from individual faculty and different grants.
Another question is, how early can you start working on your graduate application?
So the actual online application goes live usually July 1st-ish for the next academic year. So the fall 24 application went live July 1st, 2023. So if you're applying to fall or spring 2024, you can apply now.
Any other kind of questions from the group before we break off?
Yeah, I guess I just have a follow-up question regarding the fee waivers. By chance, do the GradTrack cohorts, do they have like some sort of was it help for that too, or no?
There is not a fee waiver specifically for GradTrack, but we let you know about these other opportunities. So Grad Showcase is the easiest one. It's an online event that's coming up October 1st and 2nd. And so that's one that, and I can stick that in the chat here too, if you aren't familiar with it. It's an opportunity to come and learn about the different programs that we offer here in Purdue Engineering. And then as part of that event, there's an opportunity to answer, it's like 10 questions that we give you the answer like at the event. And then you just answer those and you get an application fee waiver. Yep, and GDVP, also good point. Yep, the Graduate Diversity Visitation Program is another one that has an application fee waiver. So those of you that applied and are coming to the GDVP this year, you will get a fee waiver for that as well. Yep. Thank you for that, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So let's give a round of applause to Janet. And certainly, if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to just screen share some slides to kind of wrap up. And then, but she can definitely see the chat for right now. So before we bump you into breakout rooms, I want to just share what we're going to be doing in our breakout rooms. And so basically in your circle, you're going to have your circle discussions, talk a little bit more about your goals if you didn't get a chance to do that. And start thinking about, where you're thinking about applying to, how you can identify different research faculty areas, programs. If you're not sure, master's, PhD, thesis, non-thesis, definitely use that space with your mentors to kind of talk through those things about what you're thinking about. If you have any kind of questions on the graduate application process, use that time to dig in a little bit more with your grad mentors. And then, start talking about how you can think about building more experience in various areas, whether that's, attending conferences, what's that like, talking about publishing, teaching, feel free to dig into different fellowships, awards. So it's a pretty wide stretch of things you can chat about in your circle today, and definitely check the end of your GradTrack action pack for some questions there. And then, like I said, we're going to break you off into your circles, and you can leave at 8:30 from your circle directly. So GradTrack mentors, again, feel free to kind of dismiss once you start wrapping up conversation. So I just want to, again, go through kind of next steps. So from this meeting on to our next, what are the assignments, what's due? So we'll be meeting on Monday, September 11th. And between this meeting and the next meeting by Monday, September 11th, we want you to start thinking about which graduate programs and universities you're interested in. If you're a senior right now, then, for grad school, which ones are you thinking? If you are not a senior, then start identifying different institutions for summer research. We have a template for kind of collecting that information. So we'll definitely make sure we share that out kind of in the follow-up email, and it should also be linked on the GradTrack action pack. So make a document and stay organized, and upload that to your circle folder just so that we can count it for GradTrack trophy stuff. If you want to overachieve, then feel free to drop faculty into your channel on the circle platform into the chat. I would also encourage all seniors to start identifying fellowships, kind of like bonus points right here. Identify fellowships that you might want to apply for. So Janet mentioned GEM and NSF GRFP. There's also the Ford Foundation. So start thinking about an action plan for doing those if that's something that's of interest to you. These are all fellowships that you can apply to as a senior undergraduate student. So as a senior in undergrad. So mentors, if you have been awarded any of these, then feel free to talk about your experience in applying to those. So before the next meeting, please watch the Statement of Purpose YouTube video. We'll be joined by Professor Raj Grounder from Chemical Engineering to talk with senior students on the Statement of Purpose. And then we'll also be joined by Kay Kobach, who is a associate director over in the SURF program here at Purdue. She'll break off with the younger students to talk about summer research. And then just wrapping up some other announcements that you heard me talk about last week. We'll be mailing out swag beginning of September. So we'll be emailing you guys there. We'll have a monthly newsletter, so with some fun facts and mentor videos. So that'll be a fun thing to watch out for early September as well. The Graduate Diversity Visitation Program was mentioned here, and so we'll be looping back on that. The virtual graduate showcase that Janet also mentioned. So definitely come and join on that. That's early October. And if you are interested in starting to jumpstart your statement of purpose or summer research essay, we have links here. This will be an assignment later on in the semester. So I encourage you to start early if you want and start, meeting with your grad students. So with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing and we're going to break out. But before I do that, I'm going to drop some fun, helpful things into the chat just so that you have all of that information that I just kind of brain dumped on you. So this is a long list of fun stuff in the chat. Do you guys have any questions about what you're doing or what we're focusing on today? All excited? I know it's a lot. I'm stoked for you guys. So I hope you guys have great circle conversations and feel free. I think Lexi's going to open up the breakout room. So you can slide on over by clicking the breakout room button. You can move straight on over to your breakouts.
Okay, just a little information. So the slides for this meeting, I'll drop that in the circle platform. So there's a tab in the general channel. So you have the meeting recordings, the action pack, and then this presentation slide. So you can access that.
Thank you, Lexi. Excellent. Go have great conversations once room's open. And good luck with beginning of your semester.
Ask your mentor some hard questions. Go learn lots.
Yes. Have fun. Bye. Jump on into that breakout